How do top-level TV editors shape a scripted show and get it ready to air?
How's it going?
Patrick Tuck and Varun Viswanath, A.C.E.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Are the editors on the Golden Globe and Emmy-nominated FX show Reservation Dogs.
2 hot coffees.
I don't eat that shit.
Star people food?
No, it's white people food.
Cutting over 25 episodes between them. So that hairplay transition was already in the editor's cut.
Yes, and it was directed as such. If I could play here, you can see.
The series received widespread critical acclaim, including numerous Peabody and Independent Spirit Awards. And Varun and Patrick got an Emmy nomination for Best Editing just last month.
I've been following you on your little Instagrams and your little TikToks. Yeah.
And is created by Sterling Harjo and Taika Waititi. It features all indigenous writers and directors and an almost entirely indigenous North American cast and crew running for over 3 seasons.
Should move the truck over here. So
Keep pulling, you guys. Come on, Barry, use your mind. Hold on. It's back.
I said.
What are you doing? Maybe we should just drive the truck.
As far as the dialogue goes, in terms of changing the voices,
I was lucky to not only meet with Varun and Patrick, but also to see their actual editing timelines when they walked me through their initial editor's cut to working with the directors and showrunners' notes to get it to picture lock.
edits that I consider darlings and stuff, I try to break those down in order to understand rhythmically how to make things better. And so part of my process was...
This is a rare glimpse on how a TV show comes together in the editing. Are you ready? Let's go.
But they still lime.
You want to give us a little bit of an introduction of what we're going to be doing today?
We want to talk about the editing on Reservation Dogs, special focus on the episode 303 titled Dear Lady. Both of us worked on together. It went through a lot of restructuring. It was very good on the page, but it needed a lot of restructuring. We're very excited to give you an insight into how we work on TV shows. It opens in flashback. The goal here from the script perspective was to immediately kind of give you the sense that, okay, we're looking at something period, don't know exactly what the time is, you're trying to pick up the cues, and it takes this slow burn approach that you get hints that it's going to be a traumatic experience, but we kind of ease you into it. If we scrub forward, like we have the children are coming into the school.
Do any of them speak English?
If they did, they let on like they didn't. 2 escaped.
Oh?
Yep. In rough country. They won't survive the night.
And then you start getting an idea of trauma starting here. Like we show their hair, their braids, which are sacred in most indigenous cultures, is cut. And usually kids in this situation, the only time that an indigenous person's hair is cut is usually in mourning when somebody's died. But the stories from these boarding schools is that when they were brought in, they basically got buzz cut. But the kids, the experience for them was traumatic. They thought their parents had died. And so we used that as the trauma point. And, you know, it was written in the script to like go from a hair cutting to our present day Dear Lady playing with her hair.
So that hairplay transition was already in the editor's cut.
It was in the editor's cut, yeah.
That didn't really read to me as a hairplay transition. But later, it was much stronger.
Yeah.
Sound helps a ton with the transition you're talking about of like, you're hearing the scissors cutting the hair more. And that helps that transition a ton when we get to the mix stage.
So it was actually the sound that made the transition.
Yeah.
When I watched it, I would have bet that I saw her as a kid hold her hair and then transition to the shot. I was convinced to see that now, and it's not there.
And I think it's just like boosting up the razor sound, which was already there. And then also, I'm a firm believer in track effects so I always have like a dedicated reverb track that I'll throw stuff on when I need it to sort of bleed through something else in order to feel like things have connective tissue between them.
Ready? I need more time.
Nope. I think I've got it. I can't decide between them, so I'm gonna have an apple pie and a cherry pie.
Okay, slice of cherry, slice of apple.
No, not a slice. A whole pie.
Varun, you mentioned that it's actually quite good to edit it the way it's written. Can you talk about why it's actually important to have these scripts sort of be maybe a little bit overwritten, or there's more information than we need?
So I make it a point to present an editor's cut that's as close to the script as possible. Not that I don't want to take a license to change things. One of the big parts of a relationship with the director is to put them at ease that they were able to get what they planned. This is the editor's cut.
You want a whole cherry and a whole apple?
Yeah. Is that allowed?
Okay. I wish I had that kind of metabolism.
It's a blessing and it's a curse, believe me.
Well, if I had your figure, I'd be married to some rich asshole laying out by his pool. You want a whole cherry and a whole apple?
Yeah. Is that allowed?
Okay. I wish I had that kind of metabolism.
When the director sees an editor's cut that's exactly structured as the script, I think it puts them at ease because they're also like doing an expectation versus reality check when they're watching their own work and they're in a very vulnerable place. So managing that is, I believe it's part of the editor's journey. And then I pitch ideas of like, hey, I think that we can make these changes, we can lift these lines, we can pull this out. But also editing is a team sport. Filmmaking is a team sport. I don't want to make decisions without consulting a director. It's my place to pitch changes and show options, but I don't think I can make it by fiat, and to say, this is how I want it to be. That wasn't good enough.
You want some pie?
No, thank you.
Are you sure? There's apple and there's cherry.
Yeah, I'll take some pie. Some apple pie.
You want some pie?
Yeah, I'll take some pie.
That's what I thought.
And having extra lines in the script is actually also good for the actors.
Right. It's super, super beneficial. It gives the actors more of a chance to shape their own performance, and it gives us a chance to help shape their performance as well. Shape the tone and the pacing and everything. And when there are repeated beats or there are points of contention in terms of dialogue that maybe isn't necessary, sometimes that ends up being super necessary. And so there is sort of like a trope with editors, I think, where they're like, oh, this is a note that should have gone back to the script. And I think that's sort of an excuse. It's better if an editor is able to think like, oh, but how can I shape this with what we have, even if that's too much?
A book.
Got it.
Silly me.
Here.
I think there's a fluidity to it too in terms of the craft. There's things that you can't see on the script like, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this zoom in.
You don't look so well.
And there's gonna be a rise that gets us into the next scene. And that's the kind of stuff that the editor, I think, it's great to bring into the first pass. You're really focusing on like, how do I do things to execute what they're trying to express? And then the director gets to tell you like, oh yeah, that was a great way of doing that, or like, oh, I didn't think of it that way, or that's not how I wanted it. I actually want it this way. And then so that allows for the sort of experimentation on the first cut. We start hacking away, or we start like focusing on pacing changes and stuff, have conversations about these things. You don't want your voice to be the only one making the edit. And because if you make an edit feel isolated like that, it feels stale.
Now, you just learned a very important step in the editing process. Next, we're going to explore how each editor's unique approach helps make the episode even better. There's so much more to becoming a top pro editor, something I call a go-to editor. The best way to learn is to experience editing yourself. So I want to encourage you to take the next step and look a little deeper into our premium editing programs, where you get to cut real scripted scenes from a feature that premiered at the LA International Film Festival and also stars Oscar winner Melissa Leo. As a go-to-editor student, you get to cut several scenes.
Are you focused?
We'll show you start to finish how to put them together and create an entire story arc. You get detailed feedback from us and your peers. And then, when you've cut at least 2 scenes, you become eligible to participate in any of the upcoming editing bootcamps that are only available to our students. These are with real directors looking to hire. And so far, every director that participated has hired one or more of the students to cut a full-length feature or documentary film. These are real films, real dailies, real performances, and you get real skill training on the job. So, check out the GoToEditor website to get more intel, enroll in our free mini course, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or are interested in becoming a GoToEditor. So Pedro, at this point, so you were on vacation.
Yeah, it was my birthday. There was a wedding in the family, so I was gone for a week and a half. Patrick agreed to take it on.
And then you fixed it.
That's right.
And he fixed it.
I fixed it.
I messed it up and Tuck fixed it. Yeah.
No, it's so important to emphasize how much of a process this is, you know. I do believe that if Varun continued, it would be the same episode. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to say like, "Oh, this doesn't seem right" because it's the other editor, but you have to. Because that's what he would do if he was continuing on the project, you know. And Sterling said, "Yeah, watch the cut, tell me what you think, and then we'll talk about it." And I just watched the cut on my TV, which is also like something I highly recommend, because if you watch it on your computer all the time, it feels like you're watching your editing system playback, and I try to watch it on my TV so it feels like, oh, I'm watching TV, and this is how I would experience TV. And I just note all those things down and then go back. One of those things was I felt like we weren't in young Dear Lady's POV enough.
Do any of them speak English?
If they did, they let on like they didn't.
I wanted it to be even more in her mindset. The first thing you'll see is you hear the gibberish sooner.
Proper lean there, knee?
That must not any me get problems.
And I had done that for a small chunk, and when I showed that to Sterling, he was like, well, let's do even more. Let's push it even further. Like, let's make this even more disorienting.
None of them in the problem.
Wilson seems worried.
So,
because what they're saying is actually not vital, and I think we end up getting it. And you kind of want to feel with her of like, what is going on? What is this? The more the audience understood was actually making it a weaker POV from Young Dear Ladies.
I remember when I came back, Patrick asked me to watch the cut, saying, hey, this is where we're at. Have a watch, make sure I didn't break anything, right? I really wanted to see where the gibberish landed. Sometimes like having another editor's perspective gets you out of the structures that you and the director have created yourself. And I think in TV, we've always had this opportunity to have other editors on the same season that we can bounce stuff off of, and you're not just by yourself or just with your assistant editor and the director.
As far as the dialogue goes, in terms of changing the voices, we put on a filter that just like reversed the dialogue, and the mixers went in and re-recorded ADR that it's just like syllables that are sort of cut into place, very similar to how they did it on the day.
Dootsiki. Sakiram.
Did I understand this? On set they were speaking gibberish?
In some places. The mix of gibberish to English on set was very different, where there was a lot more English and very little gibberish.
Zahili keeps it.
That was performed on set like that.
And then did you get an alternate take where she speaks English, or that's it?
When we had both, I always picked gibberish from the source material. We just didn't have enough of it that was gibberish, so we had to figure it out.
Zahili keeps it. No savage tongue in the house of God.
Zahili keeps it! Dagvadni nut wanin. The him the how Rohishaw.
And some of them were like clearly syllabic reversal that you can just write down. Not just reverse the word, but take each syllable and like write it the opposite.
Dootsiki. Sakiram.
The very important thing, we wanted to make sure that people weren't like trying to listen and be like, wait, should I have understood that? Because that would break it entirely. That would break the illusion entirely. And it's so easy to be that.
And then we sort of determined in the mix of what felt better, whether it was doing the reverse, keeping it the way that we had it in the cut, or doing the new like syllabic mix up in the ADR versions and stuff. And so we cherry picked like which ones were working and which ones weren't.
ringlet mangled it. Then I...
ScriptSync is a tool in Avid where you can literally take the text file of the script from the writers and line up your dailies to the actual lines of the script so that you can click through and watch each take for each line. And it'll actually jump through to the exact point in which that line is, which an assistant editor manually enters into this program.
It is Avid's representation of a script supervisor's line script.
And these lines will indicate the slate name and the script it starts, where it ends.
ScriptSync is invaluable for most editors who work in that space. It helps you navigate through your different takes and your different improvs much quicker. I tend not to use it as much while I am doing my editor's cut, but when it comes to a director's cut or a network cut where they say, hey, okay, can we look at other performances of this? With a ScriptSync, you just click through each of them in quick succession, look at all your takes and say, okay, I like that, I don't like that.
I actually don't use ScriptSync that often. I actually use a different method, which is I make a multi-group of each scene. Much like ScriptSync, have my assistant go in to this multi-group, which has all the dailies of the scene in it, a red marker for start, a white marker for cut, and then in between there, all the blue markers are going to be for each line. But it's not really lines, it's more like beats. Doing each line is too tedious, and I don't usually end up needing that anyways. I have my assistant write out the take one of each line. He'll write it out. If, let's say, I'm cutting and I'm looking for a different performance or I'm looking for a different coverage of a certain moment, I can just hop through each one and it jumps through automatically. And what's also super helpful is when this multi-group is in the timeline, I can just match back to the clip. It will take me straight back here without opening up any bins, without doing anything. So it's very self-sufficient in that way. Much like Final Cut Pro 7 was, where like you didn't have to have anything open really to have access to everything. Let's say you're watching takes with a director and there's multiple takes that he or she likes, then you can go into the comments and write, oh yeah, this was Dennis's favorite. Whereas in ScriptSync, you would do like a color or something, but I like this because then it's like Dennis's favorite because, and I can put like, if we're looking for more comedy in the scene, or if we're looking for da-da. So it's just like a more malleable way of going through dailies and taking notes. Anything and everything that I think is interesting, like, oh, him grinding coffee looks cool in this light, and I like this shot, I'll just pull that bit. And I have a sequence of selects that
okay, so you pull things as you're watching into
yes. I'd be watching it back and be like, okay, something's interesting there. I like him wiggling in the wide. And then maybe I'm probably going to cut tight, so I probably don't need anything after that. And I'll just plop it in. And as I go through the scene of watching all the dailies, I'll eventually collect a sequence that looks something like this. What this is all my selects for the scene, and they're sort of organized by the beat. These are all my selects for the bits of them entering the room, and then the next beat will be, oh, they're having this part of the conversation, and looking at the projector, and we're gonna cut back and forth between that. Okay, we start to get a little more intense, things are a little intimidating.
So are there certain parts of a take that are not in this reel, or you have every version?
Oh no, there's certain parts of a take that are not in this reel. This is my way of weeding out what I consider the fat. And there are repeats, there's tons of repeats. Because this is just my first step in being like, okay, I like this take, I like this moment, I like this visual, I like this. It's really just a taste check in terms of what I want to incorporate into the scene. And it's not my Bible either. I'm going to go back to the dailies, and and that's where the markers really come into play and are super helpful, because I can just, like here, this says line 6, take 12. Well, you know what? In the scene, line 6, take 12 doesn't work as well. So I'm going to match back, and it's going to take me straight back to line 6, take 12, and I can see here in the marker window, I have all my line 6s and all the takes right here, and I can just go, oh, let's look at line 6, take 13. Oh, that's on his back, I don't want that. Now I can go to 11 and look at that. And so for me, it's just like a more direct way of going boom, 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 instead of clicking through a script sort of thing.
And then once you've got sort of your select real gold moments, how do you get to the cut?
Then what I do is I just start a sequence with the name of the scene, and I just start plopping things in.
You're building, basically.
Yeah, I don't always start with the first shot of the scene. Sometimes if I don't know how I'm going to get into a scene, whether that's transitioning from the scene before or something, I'll start with the meat of the scene and try to figure out like what I like there. And doing that allows me to sort of set up the rhythms that I like in the middle of the scene without focusing how to get to the middle of the scene.
Yeah.
Because that part's not really that important. Like, it can be, but not always. Sometimes it's more important to make sure you're understanding the emotional beats within the dialogue before you're understanding how they even like walk into their mark.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Do you have a completely different process?
I tend to do it kind of traditionally where I like literally load up, I watch the dailies, and then I put markers on my dailies for like, I like this line. You can see my keyboard, like this, all these different markers are set up on these function keys. So like good reaction shots, like yellow. If it's a good improv, it would be the dark blue. Line that I like, it would be a light blue, so on and so forth.
Do you do your markers on the individual clips?
On the individual clips, yeah.
That's what's cool about collaborating with another editor too. It's not just about the creative aspect too. Everyone has their own process of organizing and their own process of digesting things that they've spent years figuring out, and it's really cool. Most of our conversations are usually about that, of like, so wait, you do it what way? Which is fun, you know? It's like, it's cool to make the program work for you.
There's no one perfect process.
No.
There isn't, no. Sterling, our showrunner, made independent features based on indigenous topics and sketch comedy troupe. So he is very used to doing the entire gamut, so he has edited a lot himself as well. When you hear him directing, he tries to get as many options as possible on set, knowing that they're going to be cut down. And so having a director, showrunner be in that editorial mindset is very useful. And he's told me a couple of times, he said, I'm pretty sure I got everything that you need, but it's all over the place, so you have to find it. In many ways, I can see that in the script as well, from the script stage, not just from the directing stage. The writers puts a lot more on paper than we might need on screen. The script is to get the actors where they need to go. The directors is to get the footage where it needs to go. And in the editing, we get it to what it needs to be on screen for the audience. Our team has gotten very self-aware about that process. What it helps with the actors, especially when we're dealing with topics and communities that haven't had a lot of screen time before, where they're really breaking new ground themselves. I think it's very good to be more loose in the beginning and then honing it as you go down the process. Embrace the idea right from the beginning that editing is the final rewrite. And it helps the actors also play these new tropes, which they don't have a lot of comparison or inspiration to take from creating new ground. It gives them more to play with. They might do a scene that's 3 pages long and it has a lot of like life advice back and forth, but in the end, it might only end up being 45 seconds. And it's wonderful. I don't see it as much in other shows, but Reservation Dogs is where I've experienced it the most, where they kind of let everybody in the process explore for themselves.
And I think it goes both ways. I think if there is a line that was important, there's a conversation there of like, oh, okay, great, then we should get that in there. It didn't click with me, but let's understand why and make sure it makes sense. We are getting everyone's voices from the show into the show. It's just a matter of like, how do we spend our time wisely to make sure we're getting the best output?
This was TV editing. If you want to know what it takes to cut a studio movie, check out this video with editors Ariel and Austin, who cut the thriller Missing that made close to 50 million in theaters.
Perfect finishing process. We had everyone working on computers, so we're just putting computers everywhere.
What are we going to do today?
Today we're going to take you behind the scenes a little bit of our editing process.
You can see here we have our timeline. So we actually built the whole wide like this and then used adjustment layers.
So what the adjustment layers are doing are essentially allowing us to build shots. So anytime there's a new stack of adjustment layers, we're cutting from one shot to another.